Hello friends, and welcome back to the Mothership. Today we are smoking up this beautiful looking Cajun style red snapper. Let's get started. To put together our Cajun rub, we're gonna have salt, paprika, garlic, black pepper, white pepper, onion, oregano, cayenne, thyme, and brown sugar. Nice mix it together. And here's our seasoning. What we have here is a red snapper. Obviously I have scale side, and then here's our meat side. Now if you have a cut like this, the one thing you're gonna notice are right about here, there's probably gonna be some bones. You could try and pull them out. Honestly, I'm probably just gonna leave them in and we're just going to eat around it. I could trim off this piece here because it might dry out a bit. You could probably cut off the edge too because it's going to dry, but I think we're just going to cook it as is. Now to get this ready for cooking, what I am going to do is I'm going to apply a light layer of olive oil. Get that all over here on everything. That'll help it crisp up the exterior of the skin as it's cooking, and it will allow our rub to adhere a little bit better. So make sure everything is nice and coated. We don't need to do the scale side because hopefully the scales will come off when we're cooking it. Then we are going to take our cayenne rub and just cover the meat side. Again, no need to do the scale side because obviously we're not eating scales. So get everything nice and covered up, rub it in, and that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to put this back into the fridge until I'm ready to start smoking it. That will do a couple of things. Number one, obviously it'll keep my fish from going bad. Number two, it will actually dry out the exterior a little bit. And the way it does that is because your fridge is obviously a very dry environment. So osmosis doing its thing, water is going to try and get out of the skin into that dry air. So our exterior should dry up a little bit, which might give us a little bit of a harder exterior when we go to cook this thing. So into the fridge, let it do its thing, and then we'll start to think about getting our smoker going. Our smoker is now set to 180 degrees and I have put our fish on. As you can see, I put it on the top shelf, and in keeping with my latest fish videos, instead of using a cedar plank, which I probably should be using, I took a piece of peach paper, folded it into a rectangle, and then put it on the top shelf. What this will do is it'll make it so there's a barrier between the heat source and the fish, which makes a little bit more dissipation. A side bonus is when you take the fish off, it actually tends to take some of that skin and the scales off as well, so you don't really have to deal with that. And in general, it's not imparting that cedar flavor, but it does make a nice barrier. As far as our smoke, I'm going with a fruit wood because this is a white fish and I don't want anything too harsh on there. We are just going to let it smoke till about 130 degrees, and it might take anywhere from 45 to an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how thick your fish is. But at this point, we're just going to monitor and adjust accordingly. An hour and 15 minutes later and our snapper is done. I let this sucker run to 130 degrees and then I bumped the temperature up to 275 and began giving it a little bit of extra olive oil just to crisp up the skin even more. As far as final internal temperature, I pulled it when the fattest part hit just over 137 degrees, which means that some of the thinner spots can be over 140, maybe 145, but nothing is going to that 150, 160 range where the fish is really going to start to dry out. So every bite on here is going to be fantastic. Now as far as plating this and eating it, I'm going to use green beans and some rice, but you could go with some pasta. There's many other options. It's basically just going to be kind of a light meal for us here. And as far as just eating the fish, I'm just going to use some fresh lemon squeezed over it right before I eat it. Now I'm about ready to give it the old-fashioned chomp because I am starving. Before I do, guys, if you give me a like, a comment, subscription, all the YouTube jazz would be great. Make sure to hit the bell so you know when the next cook's coming out. And that being said, it's time to actually do the chomp. Red snapper has such a unique style of flavor. And this Cajun, it's got some spice to it. This is gonna be a really fun meal for us guys. It's gonna be a nice spicy fish that's not too heavy, very light. It's a good wheat cook. This is very spicy, it's very Cajun. The snapper has its own unique flavor to it. Everything about this is going to be very light but very flavorful. I'm excited to eat this. I hope you guys try and recreate this. As always, let me know what you're cooking down below and make sure you cook something fantastic, guys. Take it easy.